right now we are about to get into a conversation, and it's actually a health conversation, but we're trying to like create some awareness when it comes to it. It's one of a critical health condition, but usually it's overlooked, and it's no other condition than aspiration pneumonia. And today we are looking at it, particularly the impact when it comes to children. And in the studio with me is Dr. Hannah Sharon Mills, who's a pediatrician at Piku Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Claudia Apia Isiama, who is a parent. You're all welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. All right, Doc, so I'm going to start with you. We've heard about pneumonia, but what is aspiration pneumonia?
Okay. When we talk about aspiration, all it means is that the food that is supposed to go into your stomach is gone into the airway. And this usually happens accidentally. That's because the path that the food goes through and the path that the air goes through, they are very close together in your throat. So when we do things like forcefully feed children, or a child accidentally vomits, and that goes down the wrong pathway, it can lead to aspiration. So aspiration is when there's an accidental entry of anything other than air into the lungs, and this can lead to a pneumonia. All
right, but now, there are, obviously, you just talked about that. So what's the difference between it and other type of pneumonias?
Okay, most types of pneumonias, especially in children, are usually due to an infection. So usually a bacterial infection is what we'll treat with antibiotics for. But if you have anything that irritates the airway and the lungs, then it can also lead to pneumonia. So this pneumonia is specifically because of aspiration of things in the lungs that shouldn't be there.
All right, so what should parents or caregivers actually look out for to say, okay, I think this is a symptom of aspiration pneumonia or something like that?
Okay. A lot of the time, you have respiratory symptoms. So things like the child having difficulty in breathing. And a lot of the patients we tend to see at the pediatric intensive care unit, they come in because they've been forcefully fed or they've been given a substance to induce vomiting. So there's usually that history.
People do that?
People do that, yes. A lot of the time, people will say that, oh, my child isn't eating enough. Or I feel like what they are eating isn't adequate for them, so they'll try and force feed them certain foods. And when you force feed certain foods, the child is forced to open up the airway, and then the food goes in, and it can lead to problems.
All right, so we can see some of the images on the screen. And you know, many people on the internet, I've seen people laugh about this. Oh, this is the African way of teaching, feeding kids and all that. But you are a pediatrician. Let's get it right here now on this show. Is force feeding a right way to feed kids?
No, it's never the right thing to do. When children are hungry, they'll eat. I was a child who did not like to eat. My mother never forced me. I remember the one time she spanked me was because I wasn't eating. But when a child is hungry, they'll eat. They have smaller stomachs than we do. So when we go to them with the same amount of porridge or food that we expect to eat, it's a bit unfair on them. When children are hungry, they will eat. If you are concerned about how much your child is or is not eating, then you should report to the hospital to talk to a dietitian or a pediatrician or a doctor who can help you overcome the problems.
Okay. Yeah. So you say one of the symptoms are the child not being able to breathe, right?
Yes.
And how would you know that this child can breathe, especially children can't talk?
Yes, but you may notice that the child is breathing faster than they usually do. They may not be able to speak if they are at that age where they are speaking, and they may make choking or gurgling noises. So all of those are signs of aspiration. And sometimes you notice that their color is changing. So their lips may become a bit blue. Yes, and all of that, yes.
Wow, wow. Wow. All right, so Claudia, how are you?
Thank you.
All right, so you are a parent. Let me get it. Have you ever seen this situation before?
Yeah, my daughter, when she was a year and a half, my brother was traveling, and then they were packing things for him. So he likes granuts, so they were packing granuts for him. And then she just stretched her hands, and then they gave her 3.
Right.
So I think he just threw it into her mouth.
At what age?
A year and a half.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I think 6 months, 18 months, yeah. So he just threw it into her mouth, and then that was it. She couldn't breathe. and then she started crying. They couldn't hear her cry, but they could see the tears coming. And so, yeah.
Oh, wow. Are you serious?
They took him.
She
They
was
took
crying, but they couldn't
hear
her
the
crying.
tears, yes.
But you could see her face crying.
Her face crying, and then you could see that she was physically distressed. So they took her to Bano, and then Bano said that no, this is an emergency, and so they have to take to Kolibu. So when we got to Kolibu, they wanted to go to ENT first. We went to ENT, and they was like, no, this is like a real emergency. So the ENT team, with a doctor friend that I went with, came to the emergency, and then they took her to theater. They were there for a couple of, like an hour plus. They came back and said that they need to admit at the intensive care. Then I didn't really understand all these things, and so we were just told to go home and that we should come the next day. So we went, and then the next day, the first thing in the morning, we went there. They said we cannot enter, we need to come in a particular apparel and all that, and then finally they made us. We went, and the child was on some machines with plasters on her eyes and all that. And all
for granules,
that. Yeah.
entering the wrong place.
Yeah. So I remember there was an older woman there. So
Yeah.
she called me and said that, is that your child? I said, yes. I said that, and you see that man there? That was a male nurse. Can you go and say thank you to him, because he's been with this child throughout the night? Because I think in the night there were a lot of sparks up and down and
Wow.
down and down. So she was just on the machine for a while. So they finally find a way to remove the nuts, and then she was fine.
Right. So how did this make you feel as a parent?
No, it was terrible, because at the time I was also pregnant.
Oh.
And so it was very, very terrible. And from hindsight, I think maybe they knew she wasn't going to make it, because they don't allow parents or people to sit in the intensive care. But I was always there with her. You know, she's just there. She's not doing anything. And I didn't know that the ventilator was a support. I thought it was just on a machine. So we'll be there along the line. If the readings start coming down, they will send me to go and buy medication.
Wow. Wow. So it's not something that can just be, solved like that, like probably suffocation. Like, say if it's suffocation, we know that, okay, you can just, press the child's belly and then the granule or whatever that is suffocating her airwaves will come out. But with this, it's not like that.
So it depends on, there are different presentations. Sometimes, if you are lucky, you're able to do the Heimlich maneuver.
It's called Heimlich maneuver.
Yes.
Okay. I just know that's that thing that you,
Yeah, so sometimes you can do that and you're able to get the foreign substance out of the airway. Unfortunately, a lot of the time, once they are coming to the intensive care unit, we've gotten to the point where it's so bad that the child will usually need ventilatory support, which is where they'll be on the mechanical ventilator, like Claudia's daughter had to be on.
Right.
Unfortunately, some children pass away, some children die because of this condition, yes. And the causes of aspiration are so deeply ingrained in our culture that when we speak about it, people don't seem to realize the significance. But a lot of the time, it leads to death of the children. At the time Claudia's daughter was admitted, we didn't have a pediatric intensive care unit.
Wow.
So all of this was happening at the adult intensive care unit, with pediatricians going to see in collaboration with the adult intensivists. But about 5 years ago, the PICU was set up, and now children with this condition come to us. Since 2020, we've had about more than 1,000 admissions.
I was going to actually, like, how many do you get in a
total,
day?
not aspiration, but 1,000 admissions in total, and aspiration has accounted for maybe about 5% of these admissions. And most of the children who come in are toddlers, so children under 1, children under 2 years old. Sometimes it's accidental. It's always accidental. Sometimes it's because of things like granites. A lot of the time it's because of force feeding. A lot of the time it's because they've taken in substances that they shouldn't, toxic substances like bleach. And then in an attempt to reverse this, caregivers will give palm oil to try and induce vomiting.
I've heard that palm oil thing alone.
No one should give palm oil to any child.
Okay.
Because they've accidentally ingested something. Because the palm oil usually leads to more of the problems than the aspiration actually does.
All right.
So palm oil is never the solution to an accidental ingestion of a toxic substance.
So let's talk about the accidental ingestion of a substance. First aid, what's the first thing to do?
I know it's hard because we want to intervene, we want to do something, but the best thing you can do is report to the hospital as fast as you can. If you can, take whatever substance your child ingested, so we know what antidotes to give, if anything. But giving palm oil, it just worsens matter. And don't delay at home. Don't go to the pharmacy and try and get something. Just report to the hospital. If you notice them doing it in the process, you can just take the substance away from them quickly, turn them over, try and hit their backs. But don't give them anything else to try and cause them to vomit.
Right, right. Well, so why are we talking about this now? Why are we trying to create awareness about this?
Okay. So I mentioned I work in the pediatric intensive care unit, and from June, we noticed an increased number of patients coming in with aspiration. We don't know why, but we realized that we have to do something about it, because of the children who come in, most of them die despite our interventions. So in July, we started an awareness campaign. And we didn't want it to just be a month-long event that we do and then it's over. But we feel like this is a nationwide campaign. This is something that needs to go on continuously, annually, so that we make people aware of what the problem is. Aspiration is a real problem. A lot of the time it's due to force feeding or giving the children palm oil.
Right.
So in collaboration with the Pediatric Intensive Care Unit, the Pediatric Society of Ghana, we decided to start this awareness campaign.
Right. So Claudia, if people are watching you right now, like parents like you, what would you tell them to, when it comes to protecting their children or preventing them to be in this situation? What would you tell them?
What I would say is that we should keep their hearts safe, because these kids are more daring than before. Once you pick one thing, they move on to the other. Once you pick the other thing, they move on to the other. You say, don't go here, say, I'm just coming from there. and so we need to make sure that the house is safe, because you can't really keep your eye on the kids like 24/7. And so things like putting kerosene in containers around, littering, coins on the floor. Because I remember when Ethel was on admission, we had a lot of kids coming in who had swallowed coins. Who had swallowed coin.
Because of 50 pesos.
Kids are such a blessing, but such a disturbance too.
They're curious, it's not their fault.
Who had swallowed coin and then coming in. I remember one child passed on, because I think when they came, they had done so much, and I think they just couldn't save the child. And so we just need to make sure that the house is safe, because you can never tell. Because when they removed the granite from Ethel, they were able to remove the 3 granules that they said she inhaled after 6 weeks, and they were whole.
After 6 weeks?
Yeah.
The granite was removed after 6 weeks?
6 weeks, yeah.
All right, Doc, on that note, if someone is brought in for this sort of, medical problem, what's the possibility of the person leaving? How long does it even take for the person to get well?
It varies. Every situation is different. So I think the last patient we had for July, I don't remember if any of our children who had aspiration actually survived. They all passed away. They all died.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I have goosebumps.
Yeah. It's a serious thing. One that I don't think enough light is thrown on, which is part of the reason we are here. But it's very serious.
Wow, I'm speechless. All right, so what advice would you give parents, especially when it comes to feeding? What's the right standard of feeding?
Okay. Children will eat when they're hungry. I know we all want to see our children chubby and cute. They will get there.
But must every child be chubby?
They must not.
No.
They must not. As long as they are healthy. Children grow along their central lines. A child may have been born and have weighed 2.5 kilograms, and you're comparing that child to another who was born at 3.9 kilos. They won't grow at the same rate. And once they are healthy, they are growing along their central lines. As pediatricians and doctors, we are not worried. There are some children who may have difficulties with feeding for specific reasons. And if you are worried about your child's growth or their feeding patterns, the best thing to do is to report to the hospital so that we can intervene if necessary.
Right. So it's all about children will eat when they are hungry.
Yeah.
Do not force
Do
feed
not
them.
force feed them.
But apart from, you know, what you're doing right now, you know, the awareness that you're creating here with the media, is there anything that we are doing, you know, outside? Yeah, like, is there any of this awareness going on outside, especially to, say, people who do not have access to TVs?
Yes.
You understand? Like, people who cannot afford to watch us right now. I mean, there are so many people out there that still force feed. And there are so many people that still make jokes about that, oh, this is the African way of feeding. Yeah. So is there any other thing you're doing out there for people to know?
Yes. So the
Because I think this is
official-
really very important. What you just said right now, like, you know, like no child survives, you know, like it really hit me.
So some of them do.
Yeah.
Let's not get it wrong. Some
Yeah.
children do survive. But for the past month, all the patients we've
Yeah,
gotten
yeah, that's what I'm
have-
saying, yeah.
Yes. So in an effort to increase awareness, apart from the media engagements we've been doing, we've been on various TV and radio stations. We've also gone to markets, we've gone to churches, we've gone to schools.
Right.
Because these are places where children spend a lot of their time to talk to caregivers, mothers, teachers, Sunday school teachers, everyone that's involved in the care of
Right.
children. The official launch was in July in Kolebu, but it's an ongoing campaign.
Right.
And we are still creating awareness and educating the public
Right,
as much as we
right.
can.
All right. Anyway, okay, so that's the campaign right there, right?
Yes, it is.
Protect My Little Lungs.
Protect my little lungs.
Aspiration Pneumonia Awareness Campaign. Stop force feeding. I like that. So the main goal is the force feeding.
Yes, because of the number of children we've seen who have come in specifically due to that. And like Claudia mentioned, a lot of the time we store things in plastic bottles that we shouldn't. When a child is thirsty and you are not around, what are they likely to do? They'll pick up a plastic
Yeah.
bottle because they think it's water. But if it's kerosene in these bottles, if it's bleach, if it's something that shouldn't be in there and they drink it, and then
Yeah.
you give palm oil in an attempt to reverse this,
Right.
then it can also lead to aspiration.
Okay, so you actually have a Momo number where people can actually support this campaign.
Yes.
And the Momo number, in case if you're watching right now, just listen, is 0558 694042. 0558 694042 to support this campaign. I think it's a very important campaign. Ignorance is what has caused a lot of kids to die, and I feel like if you have anything, I think we should support them because the children are the future. We cannot let the children pass away because of our own ignorance, and that's really unfair. So if you're out there and you want to support, please do support. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Yeah, any final words?
Just do what's best for our children. Let's protect them as much as we can in the things that we can do to prevent that. Don't force feed. Keep your household safe as much as possible. Keep your eye on your child so
Exactly.
that these accidents don't happen.
Right. Claudia, any final words?
Okay, so what I would say is that let's keep the house safe. In case of these emergencies, the hospital should be the first call because all these home remedies and those old women still don't normally work. And if you seek medical attention earlier, I mean, they're able to help because that's just it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, so we've been speaking to Dr. Hannah Sharon Mills, who's a pediatrician at the Piku Kolebu Teaching Hospital, and Claudia Apia Esiama, who is a parent that has actually witnessed aspiration pneumonia on her child. But anyway, how's your child doing now?
She's fine.
How old
She's
is she
12.
now?
She's 12.
Oh, okay, that was then. Oh, thank God. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the conversation, and I know that just like me, you are actually also stunned. And I think we can all come together and support this, this campaign. And if you have watched this and it really hit you in your heart, I think you should go out there and tell someone. So just tell someone to tell someone to tell someone to stop force feeding, all right? It's not flex, it's not African flex, it's not African mother anything, it's not African style of eating, it's just barbaric. Anyway, we have a message here. This feeding form should be discouraged and treated as child abuse. All right? It's not African I agree. Unfortunately, in Ghana, there is no intrusive civic education on this matter, and that is what they're actually doing here. So thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you to the one that sent the message. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So, Doc, what do you think about the message?
It's true.
It should be
When we're
abuse.
having the launch, we actually wanted our child protection service
Agency.
unit to be present because it is a form of child abuse and it shouldn't happen to any child. No
Right.
child should die because of force feeding. It's
All
not right.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Please stop force feeding your children. When the child is hungry, they will eat. They are human like you. When you're hungry, you eat. Nobody forces you.